Thanks everyone for coming, especially those of you who aren't my literal employees that I'm paying to be here. I'm Barry. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Hex. We are very proud to be sponsoring Coalesce, and also just a bunch of us longtime Coalesce attendees pre-Hex and being part of this. So I always love being able to give talks here, and I appreciate everyone coming out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about ROI of the data team. And actually, before I get into the guts of it, I just want to start by doing a quick thing. How many people have ever been asked to measure the ROI or the impact of their data team in any way? Ominous conversations with finance. OK, so I'm going to help you with that. And I'm going to teach you a very simple formula to measure the ROI of your data team. Or will I? It's called suspense building. OK, we're going to go through. We're going to talk about how to think about data team ROI. We're going to talk about some of the AI things of this. And we're going to talk about some case studies that we have the privilege of seeing companies we work with that actually have high ROI data teams. And why? That's me. I already said who I am. That's a photo of me when I was younger and in front of a pretty wall. Cool. So just kind of did this, but doing this long enough, every data team leader hears a certain question. Hex, we have thousands of customers now. I get the privilege to talk to a lot of them, and I hear this sort of same formulation of things all the time. And it's sort of at the end of the day, the thing that I think a lot of data leaders are really trying to grapple with, which is what's the ROI of our data team? Spend a lot of money on these people, spend a lot of time recruiting them. They use a lot of like warehouse credits and tools and all of this stuff. What's the ROI of all of this? What's the impact? Now this question is usually asked with this type of energy. What would you say you do here? You're the dashboard people? What was the impact of that dashboard? How much money did we make off that? Why did our warehouse spend go up? You know, it's like this energy, right? We've all been there. It's not always just that question, though. There's a lot of different ways that this comes out of people's mouths. It can be about the incremental headcount you're asking for. Do we need that data scientist? How many people used our dashboards last year? Are you really driving value? What's the value of insights? Are you really buying another tool? Ideally Hex, but you know, whatever it is, it's fine. And of course, the sort of modern one, the 2025 version of this question that I'm sure everyone loves, can't AI just do your damn job for you or without you? And so these are the questions we get, and this is the energy coming back, right? It's kind of a little nerve-wracking. It's kind of a little anxiety-inducing. Maybe some of you were at my colleague Caitlin's presentation just now, where she talked about the anxiety that data teams are feeling. This stuff is real. Okay, so this is stressful. It's a little nerve-wracking. We look like this guy. Does anyone know what this is actually from, by the way? I have no idea. It's just become part of the meme lore. That's great. Okay, so how should we measure the ROI of our data team, you're asking? I've set the stakes. I've even foreshadowed a little bit. Now, time to reveal the hook. One simple formula to measure the ROI of your data team. Surprise, you shouldn't measure the ROI of your data team. It's a trap. Okay, so why do I say this with this kind of energy? There's a lot of reasons. And over time, over the years, I've really come to believe that trying to understand and measure and quantify the ROI of a data team is a complete and utter waste of time. Why do I think that? Well, first, you don't know the counterfactuals. Most analytics work is meant to drive a better decision, but very, very rarely are you able to take that business decision and actually have like a branched test where you can measure. Now, there are things, of course, we can set up true A/B tests, high-volume things on web traffic, stuff like that. But most general analytics decisions don't boil down to that, and so it's really hard to know the counterfactual. How much money would we have lost or made if we had done this other decision instead, if we hadn't had this insight? No way to know. The primary vector for the impact of the work a lot of people are doing is completely sort of like unknowable scientifically. Second, it ignores the glue work. Glue work is a phrase I am adopting from my colleague Caitlin from well before she worked at Hex, about all the work that goes in behind the scenes that data teams do, not just the infra data pipelines and quality, but also a lot of sort of context shuffling and communication and even like mediation that data teams wind up doing between other folks is they're trying to figure out what's going on in the world. That really is very hard to model into an ROI calculation of any type. And the final one is that no one will believe you. I've had my fair share of conversations with finance folks, and they're usually pretty skeptical of models. And the reality is the way that most people go around actually trying to calculate ROI, which is like some insights log or some spreadsheet of like, hours saved, or like, well, this dashboard was used by this many people, and all this, it's bullshit, honestly. And it's all kind of made up, and you're trying to back solve to some number, and the finance people won't believe you because you don't believe yourself. Everyone knows it's measurement theater, and I think it's ultimately a waste of time. And by the way, just to add on to this, I think it's about to get worse because there's a proliferation of AI data tools that can really trivialize work. You know, if someone can go in and vibe code a website, it's easy to start looking at the people who are coding the websites. Like, hey, what do you actually do? It's going to happen here now, too. We're seeing this. Self-service finally happening. QQs are going to move away from sucking up time in the data team, yay, but are going to be a lot for the data team to observe and govern, and that's actually work that is increasingly less visible, right? It feels higher ROI maybe if you're the one delivering the golden insight, but you're the pet QQ answerer, but if now an AI agent can actually be the front line of defense on that, you're kind of maybe pushed around a little bit. Where am I live? How do I feel like that part of that? And there's just lots of scrutiny on every role and lots of hype and pressure to do AI instead of hiring people. There's a lot of talk about efficiency right now. I think a lot of it's efficiency spirits more than like real efficiency gains from AI. But I do think there's just a ton of buzz on this, and every finance team, as they're going through annual planning for next year, which is probably starting now if you're a company of about our size or bigger, is coming into every conversation about hiring for incremental folks, and it's unavoidable. So it's about to get worse. So now you're wondering, what should I do? Fortunately, I do have some productive thoughts. I don't have a magic formula for you. I mostly stress you out. But the good news is I've thought a lot about this. I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I think there are some answers and some things we can all focus on together. And that is by focusing on NPS. Who knows what NPS is? Okay, some of you, not all of you, most of you. Okay, well, I'll do a brief definition. So NPS is Net Promoter Score. You see this a lot in B2C. The kind of ultimate question to ask is, would you recommend our product to someone else? We actually care about that in a B2B business too. Whenever we do customer surveys, we ask that. We said, would you recommend Hex to someone else? That's kind of the ultimate. You ask a lot of other questions, but that's really kind of the ultimate crux of it, right? Would they recommend you? And I think we can adopt that mental model for ourselves on data teams because we are a service organization. Very few data teams are directly tied to the revenue of the business. You're there to support other people, and fundamentally, you have customers. What's their NPS? Do you know? Do you think about it? I think you should, because they're the ones who ultimately are going to be championing your value and impact. Would they give up headcount to get you some? Or could they get along without you? If the finance team goes to the head of marketing and they say, hey, has the data team been really productive and helpful, and what have they done for you? And they go, the data who? Doesn't matter what your ROI spreadsheet says, I'm sorry to tell you. And so I really think a radical focus on this is really, really important. And I would tell you, if you're going to measure anything, trying to calculate the ROI of your data team, I would measure this. And there's a lot of reasons why people struggle with this. We see a lot of data teams that can't keep up with the pace of decisions. I'm sorry to tell you this, but if it takes 2 weeks for you to turn around a dashboard, it might as well be never. Just chill out and don't work instead. It's not really a productive use of time if you're doing all this work to try to catch up to decisions that are going to be made without you, or people are going to go with gut. And actually, what you see a lot of times is people just stop going to the data team entirely. They just go on their own. They make gut decisions. They work around you. If you can't keep up with the pace of decisions and move fast enough, you're really going to struggle to feel really high NPS. Your stakeholders are just not going to be excited about you. Second, it's not only about being right. My friend and yours, Pedram Naveed, wrote a blog post about this last year, and I really think a lot about this. I think a lot of teams focus on this academic sense of like correctness. Like we're going to get the right answer. And of course you want the right answer. But going back to that last point, I actually think that having a first draft of an answer that's fast, that's a rough approximation that's directionally correct, can be really, really higher impact ultimately than waiting weeks and weeks to get the perfect answer coming back. And the academic correctness just doesn't matter unless people are actually making better decisions based on your work. You can still be very correct. You can calculate everything perfectly and be incredibly low NPS. And I think a lot of data teams have fallen into that trap in the past. And last, insight hoarding. It's the classic dichotomy of like, do you let people do self-serve or not? In many ways, it's getting an even higher pressure question now with AI. Like, do you unleash the data chatbots on everyone or not? And I think a lot of teams get this balance wrong, and they think that by hoarding everything, they're going to ultimately be more impactful. I think that's often the wrong calculation. Now, fortunately, at Hex, as I said, we get to work with a lot of data teams, a lot of really smart data leaders and data analysts, analytics engineers, data scientists, people who are a lot smarter than us, or a lot smarter than me, I should say. I have a very smart team. And we get to observe what they do, and I get to talk to them about it. And there's a few patterns that I observe that I want to share with everyone. And so I'll go through these one by one right now. The first is to make speed a priority. I want everyone to have that Ricky Bobby mentality. Has anyone here not seen Talladega Nights? Okay, well, you'll have to, that's your homework on the flight back. Speed really matters. You want to go fast. I really, really think this matters much more than people give it credit for. Nothing kills data team NPS like something taking forever. And like I said earlier, dashboard in 2 weeks might as well be never. But our work is tedious, and our tools don't let us move fast. Well, you got to go fix that then. I don't care. And your stakeholders don't either. That sounds like excuses. Go fix this. Be the fastest data team in the West. Be the people who can get back first drafts of answers and keep the feedback cycles tight and be really picky about what you're working on so you can actually go deep on the questions that your stakeholders really care about. I think this is way underrated and something I wish more people talked about. Now, one example of this are the good people at HubSpot. HubSpot's an awesome company. They're actually having this like interesting renaissance right now, by the way. Like they're a very cool company this many years into their journey. And we get to work with them. They're awesome. And we also use HubSpot, so it's a really cool relationship. And one of the things that they found was that they were spending all their time on rigid dashboard creation. Their ideas were these sort of like really big things, long haul dashboards that they were doing design cycles on and development cycles on and UAT cycles on. This whole things were taking a super long time. And the big change they made last year was stopping focusing on the breadth and the number of dashboards they had out there. So they were realizing that actually wasn't helping get people answers faster. You built the dashboard, you direct people to it. That's very good for whatever's ensconced in that under glass. But there was all these other questions that these people were really wanting from them that they weren't really addressing at all with their tools. And so their big focus was actually cutting down the number of dashboards they were building and producing so that they could free up an enormous amount of time to get more strategic insights back to their stakeholders much faster. And this was a huge change for them. I'm not gonna do a whole hex pitch here, but on our LinkedIn and a bunch of other places, we've shared a bunch of case studies about how they did this. Some of it's on us, some of it's just their wonderful team and how they're doing it. And I think this is a really cool model for us to see. And these guys are really on the bleeding edge of how a very mature company can speed up the iteration cycles with their stakeholders by just dropping a lot of the work that they used to think was important. The second big thing is winning friends and influencing people. Most people hear the word politics and they turn off. Most people hear the word politics and think that it's something not for them, unless you're Ben and you work on political campaigns. This is kind of a dirty word, right? Especially those of us who came up through maybe more like technical paths. Like you think of politics as something that these like sort of grimy managers do or whatever. But I'm here to tell you that politics really is your path to impact. Great data people know how to be part of and lead campaigns. They know how to have a vision on the world and go out and convince people of it. And I really think nothing matters if people don't make different decisions. The best data people I've ever worked with, when I was in data, now I'm a company, I have a data team, are the folks who actually come to the table with a point of view and a perspective, and they want to be part of that conversation, and they want to help convince you of something that they believe is true. Because they want the actual end decisions to be made differently or better. And I think this requires very deep embedding and empathy with business teams, not living in an ivory tower. But it also requires, I think, changing the mindset a little bit and realizing that you may have whole days worth of work that you're doing, weeks worth of work that you're doing, that isn't like the guts of the analytics project you're working on, but actually being part of the campaign of convincing people, getting feedback, understanding what other data points would be needed to convince and push a decision over the line. This is actually way more important. It's also something that, by the way, AI models are quite bad at. They can be sort of coercive on the margins, but if you're looking for last bastions of where humans will have lots of alpha, building strong person-to-person relationships and convincing and campaigning and grabbing someone in the hallway is something that we're a little ways off from AI bots being able to do. And I think this is a deeply human thing, and I think the best data people already spent a lot of their time on it. And I'd encourage you to think about it too. Oh, and the last thing down here. But I don't like politics, maybe get a new job. I don't know. Maybe this actually isn't for you. If you want to live way down in the guts of the low levels, that may be fine. But at a data team level, if you're a data leader at least, I think you should be thinking about how your team is showing up and helping be a little political and driving opinions and decisions. I think Ramp's a super good example of this. Their data team like just sits out in the org. Like they just have data team, they're all kind of managed centrally, but they're embedded all over the company, and they are super part of the decisions that are actually happening and are really integral to that. They actually have these pods, I think they're called like, I should know the name of this, but it's like product managers, engineers, what? EPDD, that's right, EPD, engineering, product design, and then data. Where the data people are on the product teams actually helping drive the decisions that are happening, not like in some ivory tower doing analytics in the center of the company. They're out there campaigning. They're out there being part of the teams driving decisions, and I think that is a very, very good pattern. And Ian, the head of data over there, said it this way. He's like, your success is tied to your pod's goals. It's up to us to deliver the so what and ensure that action follows. They don't see their role as just showing up with the data points. They want to make sure actions are taken because of them. And the final one is focus on the new, the novel, and the gnarly. AI is going to replace answering all of the QQs, and you need to get over that. You need to let it go like Elsa. I've actually never seen Frozen, so I just know that that's like a thing. So those of you who have can enjoy that meme. Let it go and focus on how you can make it happen in an accurate and trustworthy way, and focus on how to get better answers for bigger questions. I actually think there is something amazing and a huge and beautiful opportunity on letting go of the long tail of QQs. My friend Dan Sternberg, who used to run the data team at Notion, kind of had this funny thing one time. He was like, well, we have a love-hate relationship with all the QQs that the business sends us. They're really annoying, but what would happen if they stopped? Well, it turns out that if you actually have those deflected a lot of other places, you're able to spend time on deeper dive analyses, get them back to the business faster, the things that are actually really going to drive decisions, and I think ultimately be much higher NPS. And I know this because the final third company case study is my own company. And this isn't really a product pitch, it's just like our own experience with this. We've used our tool. If you haven't seen it, you can check it out, but I'm not going to try to hit you over the head with it. That we've launched recently. It's like an AI sort of chat experience. We call it Threads. It has completely changed the way we use data at Hex. Like not joking, like the last 2 months have been almost felt like a completely different relationship with our own product and our own data, of how much everyone in the organization is actually accessing and using data, pulling data points. And our data team is busier than ever. And I think of our data team as even more valuable than they've ever been. And I think almost I mentioned something earlier, like all the ways in which AI may make this worse. I actually think there's some really exciting ways in which AI is going to elevate the value of the data team in the era of AI. What we're finding internally is we have a ton of people asking questions in Threads, self-serve. They're asking things, they're getting answers themselves, they're collaborating with other people on them. It's a really cool thing to watch. The data team gets a lot of the long tail of QQs off their plate. Our revenue leader, our marketing leader, me, our finance leader, all these folks who were pinging them all the time with sort of one-off questions, hey, can you help me look into this, can we figure this out, are being shunted over into a system where we can actually get good first drafts of those answers. Where we're not getting the answer we need, or we need some help with something, we're able to bring it to the data team. They're helping, they're leaning in, they're thinking about how to build better context so we're getting better answers, but they're also spending their time on a lot of other things. And it's elevating the work that they're doing in a really cool way, where maybe we're a bad example because we're like data people and we build a data product. But even just kind of putting myself in the seat of being like a stakeholder and an exec at my own company, I'm seeing all the ways now in which the underlying context that the data team is building is allowing me to get better answers. It's elevating the gaps in the places where we need to go and build more things. And it's pushing a lot more to our data team and allowing us to partner with them on a lot of new things. And so it's actually been very, very cool to see. And it has personally renewed a lot of my own energy and excitement on how data teams can feel even higher ROI in this next era. I think my NPS of our own data team, if I want to put it that way and go back to my shtick, has actually increased quite a bit as adoption of these AI data tools has taken off. Okay, so we'll come back to the main thread. What should I say when the finance people ask what our ROI is? Barry, you told me all this cool stuff. You want me to focus on NPS? Okay, we got to go fast. I hear that. But I'm still going to get this question on ROI. I still want to hire more people in my plan for next year. I still need to justify that somehow. What should I do? And I think that the best answer to that question is ask around. I don't think you should try or feel pressure to come back with some spreadsheet that perfectly quantifies it or some model for it. I think you should tell them, go ask the marketing team. Go ask Timmy in engineering, Jane in sales. Go ask these folks how we're doing for them. In fact, here's a survey I've already run that has a bunch of stuff, and we're seeing here's the areas where we're really impactful and examples that they cited of where we showed up for them and where we partnered and we helped make a better decision. And here's the areas of growth areas that we want to get to that more people or different tools would actually help us do to raise that score. Push that model upstream to the finance folks instead of having them focus on the financial impact number. I think you might be surprised what happens. And I think you might be surprised on the way it changes your own data team's relationship to the rest of the organization if you adopt this mental model. And that's all I have. You can come to our booth. It's easy to find. We have fun swag. And I'm actually doing another thing after this at 5 with Tristan Handy, interviewing him at a fireside chat that you can also come to. And other than that, I'm here to answer any questions folks have. And I'll hang around after folks have more questions after we run out of time. We have about 7 minutes. Thanks for the question, Bobby. The fireside chat with Tristan, Friends of Data, is in 37 minutes at 8 Cigar Lounge. There will not be cigars actually being smoked there. And it'll be fun. I'm just going to interview him. We're going to talk, and then we'll open up to questions. If you have any questions for the CEO of DBT or Fishtran Analytics, as I believe it should be called, you can come at 5 and ask them there. But now I'm happy to answer any of your questions about this thing. Or we can sit in silence together. Yeah, Nate. Do you have an example of survey you sent out internally? I will fully admit to being a little hypocritical here. We've been small enough historically that I know the NPS and I just ask people. I would like to do this, and I do think we should walk our own walk. We're getting big enough now where there's enough different stakeholders, and our data team's multifaceted enough that I'd love to do it. So data team, NPS surveys coming for you. Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. We'll share. We should actually do that. I think it'd be fun to even share some maybe slightly obscured results. It'd be cool. Yeah? How does the fact that metric flow is going to be open source impact our product? I don't think it will at all. It was already open source. Now it's just open. The execution engine is also open or something. I think it's mostly just them trying to advance the sort of branding and thing around the open compute and open platform, and I think that's great. This talk wasn't really supposed to be about Hex, but I'll say 30 seconds of it and then we move on. We ingest semantic models externally. Our approach has always been you shouldn't be locked into any vendor because of that. We launched Semantic Sync last year, and I helped kick off this whole open semantic initiative. So I think it's great. I think it's amazing. I think if that had been open source maybe a couple years earlier, maybe you would actually have less fragmentation because people would have adopted it as a standard. When the warehouse vendors were figuring out what to do about their own semantic modeling, they looked around. There wasn't anything that was actually truly vendor neutral. And so we get this situation we're in now with 15 different specs. So I don't know that it's if anyone knows the XKCD cartoon about standards, right? There's 14 standards. We should create a new standard. There's 15 standards. Right, I don't know that metric flow will become the one true spec. I think that horse might have left the barn, as we used to say back home. But I think it's great. I think openness, I think interoperability and portability is great. I think companies should want to lock you in with a great experience, a lot of value, awesome support, not you wrote shit in their YAML spec. That seems kind of silly. Yeah? It's tough. I think internal analytics has always been tough to quantify. But the question was if you're in a big company, maybe a little stuck in their ways, how do you justify the investment in something? I think you can try to go do the spreadsheet on hours saved for data scientists. We're trying to sell our own software. It's an easy hack to be oh, well, we'll make them 10% more efficient, and that cost you save more than justifies our licenses and all that. And you can do that if people are just looking for a fig leaf justification to approve something. That's fine. I think the reality is like, what's the value? The whole point of this is like, what's the value of like an insight? It's like very hard to know. Ultimately, it comes down to like, were different decisions made? Do people feel good about it? Do they feel more informed? Do they feel more data driven? And I think what's hard is like, you need leadership that just like inherently sees the value in that. So if it's like you're trying to buy a tool, Hex or anything else that was going to be like, hey, this is going to make it so you can ask natural language and get insights across the whole company. You can do the like time saved from the data team math. I actually just don't even think that's the right way to look at it because I think your data team is going to be busier than ever. I think ultimately you need to make sure first that the leadership's aligned on like, we want people to be able to know things from the data. And by the way, I think that's one of the funniest things is like, so much of the spend, if you look at the data stack, is on compute. Like Tristan actually had this in his keynote yesterday, right? It's like a massive amount of the spend and focus is on the warehouse and ETL and ingestion and 5chan and DBT and everything. And then we get all this data, and then we spend all this, the majority of the money is like getting the data in the right place. And then it's like, sometimes it's hard to convince people that now we should actually focus on like going and making sure everyone can actually make use of it. To me, it feels pretty obvious that like if we're gonna spend all the time doing that, we should have that aperture as wide as possible for people to go benefit from it. But it's tough because a lot of the sort of bean counter types want there to be like a clear ROI number, and you have to have leadership coming in from the top saying like, no, we really believe in the value of being a data-driven org. I mentioned HubSpot earlier. That's them to a T. I've met their guys, like reports to the CEO, runs ops and data and finance, and he just like believes it. He's like, I know this is how we're gonna run a great company. The best people in this company are going and referencing data when they're making decisions. We wanna make sure everyone can do that. Work with Rivian. Their chief software officer was like, we want data to be a birthright for everyone in Rivian. I don't think they ever tried to do an ROI calc for that. They're just like, we know that this is gonna help people be more productive. Ultimately, maybe you should stage a coup and take over the company and just have different leadership. That's probably my best idea for you, yeah. I tell my team to stage a coup against me all the time, as long as I could just go into exile and like retire, but they haven't done it yet, so we'll see if that happens someday, yeah. Yeah, in the back.
Do you have any tips for deriving the NPS from the glue work and all the work needed to actually set up software?
Well, do you have tips for deriving the NPS from the glue work? Like, I just view it as like, that's all the back end work that has to happen to enable that. I don't know how much it's probably worth trying to like proselytize that. You could try to like advertise all that work that goes in behind the scenes. I think a lot of people's eyes will kind of glaze over. At the end of the day, they're like, can I type question and get answer? So, the problem with the ROI calculation is just like, there's a lot of hours that go into all of that. And again, at the end of the day, if the NPS isn't high, no one cares how much time you spend on the glue work. If like the decisions aren't being made differently, no one cares. Oh, you did a data pipeline today? Like, is it helping us drive a better decision? Did you get that dashboard back to me within the month? It just doesn't matter. You might as well just go home. So to me, it's like that. It's all baked into the same pie of like, do people feel good about the value you're showing up with? Yeah, that's my take. Orange hat, and then that guy.
Sure.
Hi, Orange hat.
For one of the questions you had up there was finance teams from last week who were using AI, and I certainly see the NPS score playing into that. Is there any other talking points?
When finance teams ask about AI usage?
Whether a data team is AI native or not.
I think most aren't because the tools haven't been ready. I'm not going to do the product pitch right now, but like I think the challenge, like a year ago, this was true for like software engineering. It was like everyone kind of had some loose sense that like AI should be helping us code and work faster. Same with customer service, by the way. It was like, oh, certainly AI bots are going to like resolve customer issues faster. The models weren't ready, and we collectively as like society or like tech world hadn't figured out how to like use them yet. And then you get a company like Cursor that like really cracks the code, where like you have a new model show up, they're able to wield it with tools and put that together. There's multiple companies now doing that. There's multiple companies in customer success or customer service that seem to be doing that well. And then I think now is when that's starting to work in data. And if you want to learn more, you can come to our booth. I think just the tools haven't been ready yet. And so I think most finance people are probably correct that like, hey, are we AI native enough? My personal take is that it's sort of this like roadmap thing to share internally. I was just having lunch today with a company that's thinking about this. start with getting the data team using the AI tools on top of the data and establish trust just within the team. Like, hey, like how are we able to actually do that? Where is it getting the right answers? Where is it getting the wrong answers? And then start expanding the concentric circle to more people. What I'm seeing right now is a lot of people being like, we want to do AI data chat. We're going to just roll out an AI data, we're going to buy an AI data chat tool and try to roll it out to the whole company. Or we're going to try to do something dumb, like try to do a prompt off or eval, like bake off a few different ones of them. I think it's kind of a recipe for a letdown, even though a lot of people feel pressure to do it because there's a lot of pressure internally to turn on AI data chat. I think start with tools for the data team and then start exposing that more broadly. I think that's going to be a much like more sensible roadmap that's going to have a faster path to trust than like the big bang. Now everyone has a chat tool rollout. My personal opinion.